If you will observe the knot, this side of the knot has two parallel lines that get you the
Such a time saver.
That's it. I don't need anything else.
Hey, well, hey friends, it's Wayne Polson coming to you from the basement at Heartwood, right next door to that beautiful 53 acres called SM Heartland. And it's been a while since I've talked with you folks. I know it's been one heck of a year. As many of you know, just prior to the new year, I had my knee replaced. It was painful, but I made it through that. I'm doing very well now. But then 2 weeks later, January 1st, Susie gets kicked in the head by the horse. That set us back a little bit. She knocked out some teeth, and she's still on the road to recovery with that. She's doing really well. She has a partial in her mouth now that fills the gap, so to speak. And she's scheduled in June to get permanent implants. I don't think the process is going to be complete in June, but I think she starts that process in June, and we're really looking forward to her getting that done. So then for the last 3.5, 4 weeks, I've had a battle with RSV, whatever that is, some kind of upper respiratory viral infection, and it knocked the wind out of my sails, folks, for a long time. So you haven't heard from me for those reasons. So today I'm going to try to make up for it. I've got a video I want to do. I promised a good friend of mine back in October that I would do this video for him because he did me a favor. And his name is Scott. He is the owner of Endor's Arborist and Rope Supply up in Canton. I think it might be technically Perry Township. I'm not exactly sure on that, but Scott, correct me if you would in the comments. Scott has been going to the Paul Bunyan show in Old Washington, Ohio for the past several years. I'm not sure how many years he's been doing that, but I've been going there since about 2019. It's a fun show, folks. It's really a cool place to see all kinds of things related to wood, trees. It's awesome. There's lumberjack shows. There's large chippers, splitters, log processors. I mean, you name it. Heavy equipment, light equipment, gloves. Ropes, all kinds of arborist supplies. If you like big machines, there's a bunch of big machines there. It's a great show. Bring your kids. It's a family affair. Everybody has something to enjoy there. So like the log rolling contest, and they have a bunch of carvers, chainsaw carvers. They carve bears and wolves and eagles and stuff with chainsaws. It's quite incredible. If you're familiar with Buck and Billy Ray Smith, he was there. He's been there for the past 2 years, I think now. And if you know Nick Pixel visits the show. Outdoors at the Morgans. Do you know the Morgans? Mike Morgan and his wife, they attend the show and they do meet and greets there. There's a lot of stuff like that going on. There are a lot of YouTubers out there doing their thing. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. How did I get onto that long spiel? Scott from Endor's Arborist and Rope Supply. Now, Scott is a Star Wars enthusiast. He's a Star Wars fanatic. He's all about Star Wars. That's where they get the name Endor's. I guess Endor was a moon. Is that correct, Scott? I don't think it was a planet. I think it was a moon in one of the Star Wars series. But everything is Star Wars themed there. So it's really an interesting store to go to. If you get a chance to go to Endor's Arborist and Rope Supply, not only can you buy high quality tree gear and arborist gear there, but you can also get a big kick out of the Star Wars theme that takes place right there in that store. Oh yeah, what was I talking about? Scott. So Scott and I got to talking at the last show. This was back in October, and we were talking about safety things. One of the things about Scott is he is very safety oriented, very safety conscious. He teaches safety courses working around, high line wires and stuff like that, high voltage lines. He is focused on safety, and that's one thing I really appreciate about the man. We got to talking about some things that people do, different people in the industry, how some people are just kind of lackadaisical about their safety, well, it's kind of an afterthought. I'm kind of that way too. I don't think about safety first and foremost. To an extent I do. Like before I start cutting a tree, I always just study the whole thing to try to figure out, what could possibly go wrong with that situation. But I normally don't carry like first aid kits, and it's I don't know why I don't. A lot of people, that's the first thing on their mind. For me, it has to be kicked into my head to, in order for it to register. As most of you know, about 2 years ago, I cut my arm. Actually, it was this arm right here. There's the remnant scar of it. I cut my arm with my top handle saw in a real chintzy accident. I mean, it was just real weird how it happened, but that's how accidents happen. I was really lucky because the cut was only through the skin layers. It never touched the arteries. It never touched the tendon. But you could see the artery and you could see the tendon through the cut. I'll put a link to that video right up here so that you can see it if you want to. It's graphic, so hopefully you have a strong stomach. But, had that been worse, it could have been really bad. And it didn't bleed a whole lot because I didn't cut into any major veins or arteries. But the thought occurred to me, what if that had been worse? What if I would have cut through an artery, and blood started pumping out of that thing? What would I have done? I mean, my first thought was I'd do a tourniquet. Well, my wife was with me, so she could help put the tourniquet on. What if I was alone? It's really hard to put a tourniquet on by yourself. And the only thing I could really do is what I did do. I put pressure on it, and tried to stop the bleeding. I mean, it didn't bleed that much, but if I had bled, I would have put pressure on it to stop the bleeding. And that's about the best I could have done, I think. Now, Scott, when we were talking about this issue, he said, Wayne, he said, I would really like you to do a video on this one product that we sell at Endor's. And it's a first aid kit of sorts. It's not a complete kit. All this is a bleed stopper. It's called Wound Seal, I believe. We'll open it up and take a look in here in a second. This kit comes with a gauze bandage and the actual Wound Seal product itself. Scott said, if you do a video, I'll let you have these. He gave me 2 of them. And so I am obligated. I'm thankful because I intend to use this product. I carry these with me now. I have one on my side-by-side. So when I'm out working around here, there's one readily available. If I go up into the trees to cut, I'll take this on my harness as well. So I have something with me because if I'm in a tree and I get cut, I need to respond as quickly as possible, so I need to have it with me. So Scott, thank you for giving this to me. And here is your video. Let me open this up and just talk to you a little bit about this product. So, of course, this is the sterile dressing that's included in this kit. And I'm really not advertising the kit so much as I am the Wound Seal product that's coming up here. Now, one thing I got to say about Scott is he actually said, you don't have to do the video about Endor's. You don't have to mention Endor's. You don't have to mention his name. I just feel like I'm grateful to Scott. I respect him. I want to mention his store. I want to mention his name because this is something we should all be conscious of. We shouldn't be caught doing any kind of work around power tools, table saws, circular saws, chop saws, chainsaws, anything like that. If you're working with knives or chisels, accidents can happen. This is the product. It's called Wound Seal. And this particular product, this is a one-time use. It's sealed in this foil pack, and it's also inside of a dispensing tube in here. It has a shelf life. And the reason it has a shelf life is because there are 2 components to this powder. The first component in it is what they call a hydrophilic polymer or powder. And what the hydrophilic powder does, hydro meaning water, philic meaning lover, or lover of, it's a water-loving powder that soaks the water out of the blood, soaks the plasma, the liquid part of the blood, pulls it right out of the wound to get it out of the way. And then the second part in this product is called potassium ferrate. And the potassium ferrate, by its name ferrate, is an iron-based powder, and the iron particles in this powder work together with the solid particles in your blood to form a clot or to form a seal, hence the name Wound Seal. So normally the way you would apply this is you have a cut, you tear open the package, you remove the bottle, open it up, and you pour it on your wound and apply pressure for about 30 seconds. And within that time frame, the wound should be clotted. At that point, you can either put on a bandage or just hightail it over to the nearest emergency room and get yourself sewn up. So it's called Wound Seal, folks. It's not super expensive. It's a one-time use though, and because of the I think it's a 1-year shelf life. It might be more than that. It might be 2. This is actually due to expire, I think, this November 30th. So I got this in October, so it might have a 2-year shelf life. So I highly recommend all of you who are working around, you know what, even if you work in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, great to have this in your kitchen. Why not? If you can prevent bleeding out on your own before you have to seek emergency help, why not do it? This is a large wound package. By large wound, it means, I think, 5.3 square inches. So you got to remember, when you get wounded, you need to get out a tape measure and measure your wound. Measure the width, measure the height, multiply those two together. That will give you the area of the wound that this will cover. I'm just kidding. You don't need to do those measurements, but that's the approximate size of the wound that this will address. This particular package right here, it's about $7 on Amazon. And to get 4 applications of the small wound seal is about $10 for 4 applications of it. So it's really not a bad price. The only thing is, like I said, you have to make sure that you get rid of this after 2 years or whatever the expiration date is on the front. And it makes sense because the water absorbing material in here will absorb moisture even through this packaging over time, and it'll just become useless. So there you go. I think I covered all the bases on that, didn't I, Scott? So don't be caught dead without this stuff. Actually, don't be caught wounded without this. One case where I don't think it would ever work for you, you need to make sure you're prepared for the worst case situation. The worst case scenario would be like if you lost an arm, like I did here. The wound seal is not going to do a whole lot there unless you have like a bucket of it, maybe. But just saying. So there you go. Well, that was a long way to get to what I needed to get to. But folks, I love talking, as you know. I can talk your ears off, and I don't make a lot of sense a lot of times, but I do my best. It's great to be here, folks. It's great to be putting out another video. I really can't wait to do another one. I'm starting to feel better, getting my strength back, so you can count on something coming down the pike here pretty soon. Folks, as always, practice kindness out there in your neighborhood. Practice kindness in your household. And by kindness, I don't mean just holding the door. That's nice. That's kind. That's nice to do. I'm talking about you see a need, you walk past it, stop yourself, turn around, walk back to that need, and help that person out. Do something like that. Sometimes it's as kind as maybe, paying for the meal of the person behind you in the line at McDonald's or something like that. That's cool too, Things like that are fun to do, and I think it really helps to build your own character, and it helps to instill in others the character of kindness that we so much need in this troubled world, especially right here in our country. That's all I have, folks. I'm done. I'll see you in another video real soon. Over and out.